So now we're going to use this same diagram to explain the process of cellular respiration, which is like I said, it has a lot to do with photosynthesis. So photosynthesis was the process by which we stored the sun's energy in the form of sugar. But now organisms need to use that energy for themselves. So they're going to need to break that sugar down and extract that energy back out. We're going to do that through a process called cellular respiration. And what's important to remember, and it gets a little confusing, only plants, only our producers go through photosynthesis, but every organism respirates or breathes. Every organism has to break down that sugar into or to extract the energy. And people often get confused by this. They don't think that plants undergo cellular respiration. They do. They just don't eat because they're going through photosynthesis. They're producing their own food. They're producing their own sugar. But they still need to break that sugar down to extract the energy that they've stored in it. So let's take a look at what cellular respiration looks like. And I'm just going to zoom into my producers. But remember, all of my consumers in my food pyramid or in my food chain are also going through this process. So let's look at our producers again. We're going to pick up where we left off. And like I said, all organisms are going to take in glucose. And through this process called cellular respiration, they're going to make something called ATP. ATP is a big chemical called adenotriphosphate. But basically, all you need to know is ATP is energy for our cells. So it's the energy that our cells use every day. And that's kind of you can think of ATP with synonymously with energy. So we actually pick up where we left off. The two things that we ended up through photosynthesis, the sugar and the oxygen, they're actually now going to become part of the inputs, or they are the inputs for cellular respiration. So these two chemicals, or these two molecules, if you will, are going to go into a different part of the cell called the mitochondria. And like I said, all organisms have mitochondria, and this is what they're going to use to respirate. And this is in all of your cells that require energy. So those two things, glucose and oxygen, are going to go in. And what's going to happen is you're going to get your ATP or energy out. So you're going to extract that energy from the glucose, from the sugar, and you're going to use that ATP to do things, whether it's move around, whether it's to talk, grow, repair your cells, whatever your body is doing, it requires energy to do that. And as you use that ATP up, you actually end up giving the energy off as body heat. So this is what we said when we talked about food pyramids. At every level of a food pyramid, you're losing 90% of that energy because an organism is turning it into ATP. They're using it, and they're giving it off as body heat. So that's our energy that we're using day to day. And as we go through this process of respiration and we break down that glucose and we use that energy, we actually give off two byproducts. We give off water, H2O, and carbon dioxide, which we breathe out. We actually breathe both of these things out. Let me go back there really quick to look at them. We actually breathe out the water when we respirate. A lot of people don't think we do, but you can think about when you're in a car on, say, a cold day, or even outside on a cold day. When you breathe, you can see that steam coming out of your mouth. That's water that you're giving off from cellular respiration, from breathing and breaking down sugar. Same thing if you hold a glass up to your nose and you breathe on that glass, you fog up the glass because you're giving off that water. So those are just two byproducts of that process of respiration. And when you break down that sugar anyway. So we give off the water, we give off the carbon dioxide. So again, let's think of this like cooking. Let's think of it as a process that we change inputs to outputs. So if we go back and make a little table here, our inputs for cellular respiration is the stored chemical energy in the sugar and the oxygen gas. We breathe that in. And then out of that, we break the glucose down. We release that energy. We turn into ATP, which our cells use. We also, as a byproduct, breathe out carbon dioxide gas, and we breathe out water. So those are our other two byproducts, all to get this energy out of the sugar. Again, you might see a question on the test, very similar to the last one, cellular respiration, fill in the blank, process that changes sugar or glucose um, and oxygen into ATP energy, carbon dioxide, and water. You might also see it presented like this: oxygen plus sugar turns into carbon dioxide, water, and ATP, cellular energy. You could also see it like this. Here's your cellular food, your glucose, plus oxygen turned into energy, carbon dioxide, and water. And here it is chemically written out. Here's your sugar. Here's your oxygen. Out come carbon dioxide, H2O, and energy. Now, someone who's really smart might have noticed the similarities between cellular respiration and photosynthesis. If I actually just zoom out really quick and look at my two tables that I've made, if you look at the table for cellular respiration and you look at the table for photosynthesis, you might see that, okay, they look a little similar. There's definitely some similarities between them: the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the water. So what you should actually notice is that at least the molecules in this process are reused or recycled over and over again. Or the way that I like to phrase it is the inputs of one are the outputs of the other, and the outputs of one are the inputs of the other. So, for example, if we just look at our example of photosynthesis up here from our chloroplast, well, what are my arrows coming in? We're bringing in carbon dioxide, we're bringing in water, and we're putting in light energy. We're getting out glucose and oxygen. That's all just photosynthesis. But now when we look at cellular respiration, well, what are my arrows going in? Oxygen and glucose go in, energy comes out, and water and carbon dioxide come out. So those, again, become the inputs for photosynthesis, which become the outputs, which become the inputs for cellular respiration. These glucose and oxygen molecules and water and carbon dioxide molecules just keep getting switched. And again, it's all the purpose of transferring this energy. So in comes your light energy. Remember, that energy gets stored in the glucose, but then through respiration gets released back out. And we can use that energy, and it eventually turns into heat. Water and carbon dioxide reused again, turned into glucose and oxygen, broken back down, turned into carbon dioxide. So it's important that you get this idea that the inputs of one or the outputs of one are the inputs of the next, and so forth and so on. That energy passes through, but these kind of molecules keep getting created over and over again. And we'll actually talk a lot more about that in the future. But this is just a quick explanation. And I think if you break it down to those inputs and those outputs, those inputs and the outputs, these two processes are very easy to remember.